Welcome to Pop Up to Powerhouse, the podcast helping event creatives turn their passion into profit. Each week, I'll pull back the curtain on what it takes to attract luxury clients, price your artistry, and build a brand that books itself. Okay, so if you've spent any amount of time online to grow a business, you've seen these posts. You need to find your niche. You need to niche down and get really specific. Stop trying to be everything to everyone. And right now, I kind of have a little bit of a complicated relationship with that advice because when it comes to my personal brand, I have honestly not wanted to niche down, at least not right now. With my personal brand, I want people to get to know me. And honestly, I'm wanting some freedom and flexibility to post whatever I want and not really feel like I need to niche down. And maybe at some point I will, because I want to talk about business and creativity or events, maybe personal growth or my family, whatever I want to talk about. And right now I'm kind of using it more as a platform of me figuring out this next phase of my life, or maybe what I'm not figuring out, what's going well, what's not. And I've decided to allow myself the freedom to let that be okay. But I also have to be okay with people not really knowing what I am like posting about or what I'm known for. And currently I'm okay with that. But then I look at my balloon business or say my gift box company. And the truth is that niching down was probably one of the biggest reasons those businesses worked. So I have that kind of rolling around in my head because it's like, how do I not want to niche down on my personal business or my personal brand? But I know that it is one of the biggest parts of my success with my other businesses. And I think the difference is this. There is a difference between letting people get to know you as a person and asking them to hire you for something. So on my gift box company, nobody's going to care about my personal brand. They want to know how we make gifting easier. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone is going to hire you or even refer you, they need to know what in the hell they're referring you for. And if you're just posting all over the place, it can just make that conversation a little more convoluted or also make it to where you're not the first person to pop in their head. They need to know the one thing they can attach your name to. Now, this doesn't mean that this is the only thing that you can ever do or ever talk about. It's just the thing that you want people to think of first when they think of your business name or maybe your name. This episode was really inspired by my previous episode with Carolina Gomez, because Carolina and I both ended up working with corporate clients, but the way we got there and the kind of businesses we built were actually pretty different. When I started my balloon business, I did balloons. That was it. I wasn't doing florals and full service planning and rentals and signage and 20 other things all at once. I was only doing balloons and I was getting really fucking good at it. And I don't swear often, but um, I did. Like, I put everything into learning that craft and learning that material and learning the mechanics and how to make balloons look luxury, over the top, and amazing. I learned how to fix problems on site because inevitably, especially in events, there's always something that didn't go as planned or that happened on site, and you're having to learn how to pivot and fix things as you go. And I think that focus helped me so much because I wasn't trying to learn 10 different skills at the same time. Prior to starting my business, or maybe it was around the same time, I read the book from Howard Schultz on starting Starbucks about how his goal was to build the company one cup at a time. Their mission even says one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. And that's kind of how I think of what I did first. First, make one really good cup of coffee, or in my case, make one really good balloon installation. Then you can start adding to it. So eventually I started adding in fringe. I added in some rental items. I started bringing in other materials that would make my work look more elevated and elaborate. But those things came because they made the balloons work better. They weren't separate add-ons. I wasn't trying to be like a florist and a balloon artist together. They added to the experience that I was already creating. I didn't wake up one day and throw 12 unrelated services onto my website just because I technically could. And even with balloons, I had a pretty clear idea of what I wanted to be known for. It says on our website, we create jaw-dropping installations that beg to be shared. I wanted to create over-the-top, artistic balloon installations that stopped people when they came into the room and in a way they were in awe. And I've had that happen at events. where people have stopped and been like, oh my gosh, this is like art. And that is what like fuels my soul or feeds my soul, I guess. I've always loved a challenge. I knew after starting my business and got my foot in the door, I knew that I wanted to start getting corporate clients and I wanted really wealthy private clients who are willing to pay for something custom and different. Because what I do, I was just telling somebody this the other day, we are not needed for an event. So we are really going after people who have extra income that are wanting to wow or provide an experience for the people that are coming. I did not want to be known for basic. And I want to be clear that when I say that, because basic doesn't mean bad, basic can make really good money and arguably potentially more than the business that I'm doing because it is faster, it's easier to replicate, it's also easier to hand off to employees so that it then becomes more scalable than the complicated shit that I'm doing. It just wasn't what I want to attach my name to. So in the last episode of Pop Up to Powerhouse, I spoke with Carolina Gomez of Grow My Biz. And Carolina also started out doing balloon installations. And at some point, she realized there was good money in corporate work, but she didn't look at the opportunity and decide I needed to make every installation bigger, crazier, or more complicated. She went the other direction. She focused more on things like balloon columns, balloon arches, and things that corporate clients need. They need something for a grand opening, an employee event, or a conference, whatever it might be. Not every event that they do needs to be over the top, and you can make it, drop it off, install it, and move on to the next one. So it's much easier to repeat and much easier to teach someone else how to do it. And actually, it's really smart. We just got done doing a large installation, large in budget, but it was a bunch of columns and arches. We took it on because it was a great client, but it was funny. I wasn't overly thrilled with it because it was balloon columns and arches. Like it just doesn't light me up inside. I do remember walking away going, okay, I can see why people just want to do things that are smaller and repeatable because you can easily hand that off. Like you can make good money. Just you don't have to, watch and make sure that the design is coming to life. Like there's only so many ways for the balloon column to look. And the same thing for a balloon arch. So I walked away seeing like I know I can see why this is a good business model for certain people, but I also can sense in like for me, I don't walk away from those lit up. So my work is, I don't know that I would say slower, but it is harder to repeat when you get so artistic and so custom. But I'm able to charge more because it's not something that you can just get from anybody. I mean, I've literally had people walking down the streets of Seattle and text me and say, I knew this was a confetti. And that was when I knew that like I'm onto something because if somebody can be in the wild and recognize my specific look, I knew that I've, in a sense, arrived at least what I've wanted to create. I wanted to stand out, but with that comes some limitations. It's very difficult to train other people that look because it's just something that I've created in my own mind and I've gotten there, but it is more difficult. But I'm also able to charge more because it's not something that you're going to see everywhere. And I will say ours also take a longer time to do because even at the venue, as planned as we are, I can't tell you how many times I go up and I step back. I go up, I step back. I go up, I step back, almost after placing every single balloon. And that takes longer than building a column or building an arch and dropping it off. I mean, even if somebody asked me for a balloon column, I usually put my spin on it because I always wanted it to feel like it was a confetti. And that meant I charged more for it too. So really, if somebody was looking for just a basic column or a basic arch, they're probably not going to come to me. And at some point, I had to be okay with that. It's not always easy, but you have to free up your time to attract your ideal client. Now, I want to get something straight. So it doesn't mean that you don't have to take the business from people that you're getting. I would refrain from it because the more that you take from clients that you don't want, you're kind of blocking getting the ideal clients that you do want. So if there's a person that just needs 2 clean balloon columns or a simple garland for their ribbon cutting, they might not call me. And I'm okay with that. But on the flip side too, if somebody is looking for an over the top, overly custom, and organic balloon installation that's super unique, they might not be Carolina's ideal client either. but we're both taking on the same corporate clients. And that's actually what I found so interesting, right? Same general market, completely different ways of serving it, and both can work. Carolina figured out the type of work that she enjoyed and what worked for her, and vice versa. I realized the type of work that I did want to do, and the type of work that I didn't want to do. And I feel like that is what gets lost in this conversation about finding your niche, that there's like one little way or one spot that you have to find that is the correct answer, and it's not. I think people hear the word niche and they think it has to mean like one product or one very specific look. But there are so many different ways to narrow in on what you do. Maybe you just want to do home parties, or maybe you only want corporate clients. Maybe you only want to be in the wedding industry. Maybe you only want to do luxury installations. And in the photography world, I know that you have to find your look because that's what people want. Are you dark and moody? Are you light and airy? Are you candid? Like, you have to hone in and find the type of work that you like creating, and then you have to find the ideal clients to attract that. Quick pause before we jump back in. If you haven't downloaded my free guide yet, you're seriously missing out. If you're ready to stop undercharging and book those premium clients that you dream about, I made something just for you. It's my free Charge Your Worth guide. Inside, I'll walk you through the exact mindset shifts you're going to need and real strategies to move from side hustle to powerhouse brand. Download it for free at thejamietaylor.com/free guide and take the first step in building the brand and creative business that you deserve. Especially if I'm talking specifically to the creative market or people who are in some creative field, it could be the type of work you're wanting to make. Maybe you love doing clean, repeatable pieces that clients can order without a huge design process. Or maybe the whole reason you're in this is so that somebody can come to you with some crazy over-the-top idea and they want to let you figure out how in the hell you're going to bring it to life. I actually can't tell you how many installs that we've had where I've agreed to the installation, but still wasn't even 100% sure how I was going to bring it to life. We got referred to the Seattle Symphony to do an install for them. Well, they wanted to do this big ceiling installation. Well, they didn't really have a ceiling. Their ceiling was like 4 stories high, and they were going to be down on the bottom floor, and it's like a big open atrium area. And so they wanted to know for their gala, like, how can we do a balloon, like ceiling installation? And that was the challenge, which is something I really enjoy doing, is solving problems. And which is probably why I went more that route in terms of more custom over the top installations, because it's kind of like it's problem solving. So how do you create an installation that when there's really like no ceiling? And what we ended up having to do was they had these balconies and they had like 4 stories up on one side and it was maybe like 2 stories up on the other side. We had to put the balloons on a string of line and then drop them over the balcony, drop the lines over the balcony and carry them over and bring them up to the other side. And this was also 60 feet long. And then the skill on top of that, like that might sound easy, but to me, it was, how do you create a cool design, right? Like, yeah, I could just tie balloons to a string and like toss it over and bring it there, but that wasn't what it was. It was really creating and bringing their theme to life. And that was where we played around with the height so that not everything was at the same height and some things crisscrossed, and to get a little bit more depth. Finding your niche can be so many different things. It could be whether or not you want smaller jobs, but that you get more frequently, or do you want fewer jobs, but they're larger budgets? Do you want a team that's able to produce the item without you? Or do you want to be creatively involved in every single project? And again, like, there's no right or wrong answer. This is just what works for you. So instead of getting hung up on what is my niche, because I feel like sometimes that really like gives you tunnel focus and you really have to just like do one type of thing. I think the better questions are, who do I actually want to work with? What do I want people to call me for or refer me for? And what type of work do I want to keep doing on a day in and day out basis? That last part matters so much. What do you want to do over and over and over again? There's actual research behind why being clear and consistent actually helps people remember you. And I promise I'm not going to turn this into some science lecture, but I do love when there's like a little bit of science and proof behind it and not just my own personal opinion. So there's something researchers call processing fluency, which is basically just how easy something is for your brain to understand. Now, I remember when I was pitching my gift box company at the Starbucks headquarters, and it was it was a bunch of entrepreneurs, and we kind of got to pitch what our businesses were. And it was a way to pitch either to get investing also. And what was really interesting that I picked up in there was trying, how do you tell what you do and make people understand it like in seconds? When I launched my gift box business, like Blue Apron and HelloFresh were big companies at the time and people like knew what they did. So when I told people what we did as our gift boxes, that was essentially what I did. I said, we are basically the HelloFresh, but for gift boxes. And people instantly understood what we meant, right? Like you basically got a gift box sent to your house. And then from there, I could elaborate, but immediately they kind of understood at a basic level what we did. So here is another like example of the opposite of that. So if I were to tell you like, I do balloons, I do flowers and rentals, I do planning, I do gifting and branding and content creation and consulting and pretty much like anything that you need. Like, okay, great. You service a lot of clients, but I bet you the person on that other end walks away having literally no idea what to say that you do. But if I say we create jaw-dropping installations that beg to be shared, that's the moment that somebody hears like, oh my gosh, we're looking for an over-the-top balloon installation, like who would I call? They would know to refer me. So that's what we mean by niching. Like just find the one thing, but it doesn't mean that that's all you have to do, but that it puts you in a bucket in their brain. That doesn't mean that you can't do other things, just like we did columns and we did arches. It just means that you make it easy for them to remember you and what you do. And then there's the mere exposure effect, which is the idea that the more familiar something becomes, the more we tend to like it up to a point. So a big review published in 2017 looked at 81 different studies and found that repetition generally did increase familiarity and liking, although obviously it can be overdone. We have all followed that person who says the same thing over and over, and we just like scroll on to the next thing because we know what they're going to say. But the useful part of that study is that you probably have to talk about what you do more than you think you do. You're going to get tired of your message way before anyone else has ever noticed this pattern. This was something that I noticed observing another real estate agent that I know in the area. And she came in from outside of the area into a new community, guns a-blazing, like very good at marketing. But the one thing that she did really, really well was that she continually in her post reminded everybody of what you got if you worked with her. Now, what was different was she does a lot of the exact same things that other real estate agents do also. The difference was she was telling the public what she does because the normal person doesn't know what you get and what you don't get. So when she was stating what you got with her, it almost made it seem like you were getting more than maybe what you would get with somebody else. And so I think that I would attribute a lot of her success to doing that on a consistent basis because she made it very clear to people like what she provided. So repeating a message doesn't necessarily mean like posting the same photo and having the same caption week after week. But what you can do if you know who you're trying to attract, then you can start taking one event or one installation and creating a content system from that to attract your ideal client. Meaning you can first show the finished project, then you could show the design process, then you could show things that went wrong and how you overcame that. And that walks people through your system. They also kind of see what it's like to work with you. And you're giving them a little bit more depth than just here's the finished product. It's all different content, but it's all pointing back to the same thing and what you want people to know you for. There's also research around how people categorize us, like as human beings. Before someone decides they think you're good, they're often trying to figure out what category you belong in at all. And research has found that when someone's professional identity feels all over the place, people can read that as less capable or less committed, even when that's not true, which is really kind of annoying because you could be super talented at like 7 different things. But if nobody understands what to do with that information, they may not think of you when the opportunity comes up. So for me, being known for something isn't about pretending you only have one skill or that you only do one thing. It's about making it really easy for someone to know why they should call you. What's funny here is I used to think that like people would think of me with over the top balloon designs. Like that's what they think of me for. And that is why people hire us. But I've come to the realization that like now, because we've done balloons for so long, people think of me as like the balloon lady, and just send me like they see balloons, they think of me like literally family, friends, whatever. And in some regard, like that is good. My hope is that they will cater that to more of like my artistic look. But I used to actually take offense to it to some degree because I was like, I don't make balloon animals. But then I realized like it works because when somebody is thinking of balloons, they're going to think of me. So that doesn't mean that you can't show your personality in your brand or that you can't talk about your family or what's happening behind the scenes. Because I do think that you can. I do think that you can talk about the mistakes that you've made, things that you're learning, maybe ideas that you're playing with. You can add new services. You can change your mind. You are a person. So, of course, you're going to have more than just one thing to say. And I think as we enter this AI era, I think that what we're going to start seeing in this AI era is a shift in this overly polished and overly done work because people can't decipher the difference between the two. And so people are going to want to see the human side of things and kind of behind the scenes. We already know that when you do like time lapses of events, like people, those are some of my best performing reels is because people love to see the process. And taking on even more is just doing like face to face yapping on reels or content, which I know can be hard for a lot of people, especially if you're wanting this like polished brand. But I think that there is a way to do it. Like one, if you're just talking about like your design process or maybe a client or maybe an issue that you're going through, like you can make that a reel and talk to people about how you went through that process. I think if it's a little bit less polished, you can keep that in your stories. But I think with the age of AI, like people are going to be seeking real human beings and knowing that they are real. And those are going to be the people that flourish. It has to be a balance of how much like personal shit that you post versus how much like a business side of things that you post. Because again, you don't want it to be convoluted that people don't know like who you are and what you do and what you're selling. So for my balloon business, like I do now have rentals and fringe and other things that we were doing, but that was after I became really known for doing really good balloon installations. And that all made sense. And a lot of that came because it was clients that were coming to me saying, hey, what else can you do? And I started adding that on. I feel like it was the right timing and clients recognize like, okay, this girl has a good eye, like she can do more. I wasn't suddenly all of a sudden like becoming a florist and adding that in. So you can branch out. You just need something to branch out from. And maybe that's the better way to think about it. Niching isn't about being in a box. It's more like a starting point. It's the thing that gives the rest of your business some context. So here is a bigger question that I would ask that I don't feel like a lot of people are asking online. A lot of people are telling you like, here's how to be successful. This is what you need to do. Do this, do that. But what I think that you really need to do is you need to ask yourself, what kind of business do you actually want to operate? Because I loved making huge installations, one of a kind installs. I loved getting the weird ideas and figuring out how to make it real. But that came with a lot of extra work. Every project needed a new design, new calculations, new materials, new problems to solve. And you can't always hand that checklist off to somebody. The upside was that the work looked different. It was harder to compare to, and I could charge more for it. The downside was that it took a lot more time and energy. Carolina's model is much easier to repeat. The client knows exactly what they're getting. You can quote it way faster. You can train someone to help you reproduce it. You can do more jobs without personally reinventing balloons every single time somebody has an employee appreciation event. That's not less creative or less impressive. It's just a different decision. I think sometimes we choose the business that looks the coolest from the outside without really asking ourselves if we actually want to live that on a daily basis. Maybe you do want the giant custom projects. Great. Maybe you want the clean, repeatable jobs that are easy. They can get you in and out in no time. Like, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Make them easy to order and build the relationship that keep those clients coming back. Maybe you want a combination of both of them. There's really no gold star for choosing the most complicated option. So if I were trying to figure out my niche right now, I would probably start by looking backwards before trying to invent something new. And this was something I talked about earlier, right? Maybe when you're starting out, you don't know what your niche is because you're just trying to get your feet wet and you're trying to get your foot in the door. And I think do that. But in a short period of time, would look at, say, the last 10 jobs and ask which ones actually made me money, which ones did I enjoy, what clients did I want to work with again, and which jobs look great in the pictures but made me want to completely disappear 3 days afterwards. Because revenue alone doesn't tell you if a job is good. If you made a lot of money, but it took every hour you had 6 emergency trips to the store and half your will to live, that matters. So then I would start looking at what people asked me for. Sometimes other people notice your thing before you do. What do clients compliment you on? What do planners or let's just say referral partners in your industry keep referring you for? And what type of projects keep showing up? Then I would start to look at what I'm showing online. What does your portfolio look like? Is it full of work that you want more of? Or is it full of random jobs and it feels a little bit all over the place? Your portfolio, what you put out into the world and what you post is literally what you're going to get back. It's what people are going to ask you for. So if you keep showing up for work you don't want, you can't be surprised that people are asking you for it. I can't tell you how many events that we did that I have not posted. I never posted balloon columns on my page on my Instagram because I didn't want to get requests for them. That doesn't mean we didn't. We 100% did, but it wasn't what I wanted to get more of. So you can decide what you put out there. And if you're just starting, a couple of things to potentially do would be can post other people's work, not by stealing it. You have to give them credit, but it could at least provide people like, oh, I like this, or maybe you give your 2 cents, your opinion on it. But you definitely aren't posting it as if it's yours, but people will start associating that with you. That's a little bit of what I did in the beginning. The other thing that you could do is you can create a mock setup or a mock design and post that as your work. That is literally how I built my business. I did styled shoots, I did marketing events, and every single one of them were installs that I wanted to create. And that was how I got to bigger jobs because I dictated the type of work that I would end up doing. And I started showing people that. And then people started asking me for it. People are not going to ask you for work that you don't show that you can do. I think my biggest takeaway with my conversation with Carolina is that there really is no one way to do something. Regardless of what you hear online, you just have to pick a way and start moving forward. She saw an opportunity with corporate clients for easy, simple, scalable, and repeatable ways of servicing that client. And I saw an opportunity with corporate clients to do bigger, over the top, custom installations. We chose different variations of the same market. And that's really what I want you to take home from this. Finding your niche isn't about looking for what worked for Carolina or what worked for me and copying it exactly. It's figuring out what works for you. I think so many of us are online searching for the right thing or the right funnel or the right way to target a client. And really, the right way is just to choose a way and start moving forward. Start making contacts, start finding out your social media strategy, but start getting in touch with those people. And with AI, there's literally no excuses of why you can't have a system or a plan because it literally is just going to create it for you anyways. You need to figure out what do you want to make? Who needs it? What are they willing to pay for it? And do you actually want to keep doing that work once the business grows? Niching down doesn't mean that you can't change or expand or let people see other sides of you. All niching means is that you've given people something to remember you for. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode with Carolina Gomez of Grow My Biz, go and listen to that conversation. I think that you'll find some nuggets of things that you can utilize in your business of what she is applying in her business. Maybe look at your last 10 projects and see what you notice about the money, the clients, the type of work, and how you felt doing it. You may already have a niche, but maybe you just haven't named it yet and really given yourself direction and focus on going after that. And then using that when you're promoting yourself online. And if this episode makes you think differently about what you want to be known for, send it to another business owner who is maybe trying to figure it out as well. Or Leave us a comment or send me a message and let me know how you would finish this sentence. Call me when you need, and fill in the blank. I will see you in next week's episode of Pop Up to Powerhouse.